California Governor Gavin Newsom is up to his old tricks. He's continuing to throw money at the homeless problem in his state of California, saying he's planning to sign an executive order adding $750 million to the state's budget to pay rent for people facing homelessness. The governor says this is just part of a larger program to tackle the crisis in California. But Gary, I'm going to answer this question myself. I don't think this is going to work. What about you?
Well, let's see. He's been governor for a year, lieutenant governor for 8 or 9 years, the mayor of San Fran for 7 years, and he's watched all this happen, oversee all this happen, do nothing about it happen. Now let's throw more money at it. You would think when you're doing something wrong for so long, you would change the playing field a little bit by looking at what the root of the problem is. It's not money. Money won't fix it. You got to get in there and do something about whatever is getting these people onto being homelessness, and unfortunately I have no confidence in what this man's doing.
You're right in the sense that we have to discuss the root of the problem, and when it comes to funding, this is going to be funded obviously through taxes as well as donations. But to add to that, we talk about the housing being a major thing, right? They need housing. So one of the things that the governor has directed is to provide only 100 travel trailers and tent structures to cities and counties that would meet the criteria. I think maybe you both can chime in. Is that not part of the major issue, the fact that there's no housing too? So like the fact that they have nowhere to live, of course, and then you're talking about mental instability.
They have nowhere to live because of the crazy regulations in California that make it absolutely impossible to build. And you look at a city like Chicago, for all their problems, they have housing for every, as they used to say, pocketbook, because they don't put these crazy regulations in the way. There are plenty of developers out there willing to provide a low-cost housing, but they can't get permits. It takes years, and guess what? They make it unaffordable. Very simple.
With all due respect, I have to take
when you say that, you know a zing is coming.
I mean,
all due respect.
Because to compare homelessness in Chicago versus L.A., a lot of homelessness and why people go to L.A. is actually because of the weather. That is one of the reasons. That's why people aren't going to Chicago. You know that, Steve. Come on. With respect to homelessness, we have a problem in many places around the country. One of the issues we have right now, there's a big difference between the shelters that we need versus homelessness. With homelessness, there's a big issue with drugs and mental health. Right. The question is, we have to get at that first. We have to figure out how to bring them off the streets back into the workforce. Very different than a homeless shelter community. I think part of the problems right now with homelessness in California is, for the most part, people keep going there. They keep going to Austin. Robert,
those are facts. But there's a report that was issued on Monday from the U.S. Department of Housing saying that right now California as a whole does encompass 1/3 of all homeless people in America. So there are a lot of warm places in the country.
But we're seeing
not getting it right at all over there.
This is exactly the problem, though. I mean, Robert, you're my favorite Democrat, but here's the problem.
Stephen, you're one of my many favorite Republicans since I have 4 on stage.
Here is the problem. Think of where the homeless crisis is worst. It's in, by the way, Portland and Seattle don't have great weather, but they have huge homeless problems. They have huge homeless problems in New York City, in San Francisco, and we know that what's most frustrating to me, Steve Forbes and I know this because we've been in New York for so long. We had a mayor who figured out how to deal with this problem.
Oh, come on.
Rudy Giuliani.
I know, Steve, honestly, you're going back to the 80s.
You know what the influx,
but it's the same solution.
The population's changed dramatically. The prices of housing's changed dramatically. I know that you think this is a criminal justice and move people off the streets. That's not it. It's a jobs. It's a mental health. It's the cost of rent's too far.
But the problem is these politicians only make it a priority after it becomes a big problem. They do nothing about it as it develops into a big problem. They just sit there. And this guy has been in politics now for 19 years and allowing this to happen. Now, all of a sudden, let's just throw a bunch of money at it, and all of a sudden, everything's going to get solved. That's not going to do the trick.
So what would you guys do? What do you think? What would you do?
We need more shelters, but we can't we cannot tolerate people defecating and begging on the street corners and building tent villages with diseases. That just cannot be tolerated in major cities.
I think the question is, what would we do? Let's just say throwing good money into bad money is not the answer.
But then to answer everybody's, it's changing the regulations first so that you can actually build up. But then the problem with that is you have the NIMBY, not in my backyard, because nobody wants those affordable housing projects to be in their neighborhood, because then they're concerned about drug use, defecation in the streets.
Despite California being the most populous state in the union, it has a ton of open spaces where you could put new development.
So you're saying push them out of the city into the
Not push them out of the city. When you have
area.
affordable housing, people in California accustomed to riding 2 or 3 hours getting to work. If you have something that's affordable, not too far away, 20, 35 miles away, by golly, people would move.
You and I agree on that. Affordable housing would make a big difference.
And that means getting rid of the regs, not subsidies. Get rid of lower the regs.
Go ahead, Steve. My favorite Republican.